Welcome to the Three Generations podcast. We've got Marie, our wise boomer, Julia, our Gen X realist, and Jess, our millennial with fresh takes. Three generations, three perspectives, and three times the fun, because sometimes the only thing we can agree on is that we're different. Welcome back, guys.
Hey. We are so glad to have you guys back. Thank you to our listeners. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking our content. We really appreciate it. We're really excited to do this, and we thank you guys for your support. We really appreciate you. Marie.
Well, I think we should talk about music and culture.
Nice.
I just think it's a fun topic, and we were just discussing it before we went on air. So let's say what we were really saying before we went on air. Like, what do we want to talk about with the music? Did it influence your life? Do you have a favorite song? Do you think it's changed?
Yeah, and in that question, like what got me thinking was, is there a song that's like a theme for your experience growing up, or a movement, or a time, or is there a song that you think and you go, that's very much my generation? And when I started thinking that way, for me, there are a few songs, but one of them was like that one that called "What's Going On." Do you remember that one?
Bro, that song is a jam.
Yeah.
Who's that by?
Oh,
I think it's I want to say Alanis Morris.
it's not Alanis Morissette.
It's not. Gosh, there's
But
gonna
she
be
was
a few
her mentor.
There's going to be a few people that are going to be like, how dare you?
Okay. It is Four Non-Blondes.
Never heard of him.
I got to be honest with you. I've never heard them either, but I've heard that song at least 100,000 times. At least 100,000
Are
times.
they the only ones that sang it?
I don't know.
Yeah, and she did. Oh yeah. What's going on? It's such. Yeah, she's the only one that sang it, but she was doing a lot of it. She was mentored. She mentored Pink.
Oh,
You know,
wow.
she was more of a behind the scenes kind of person. She came out with that, but not everybody makes it and stays there.
Yeah,
She was quite influential.
that's cool. Marie, did you have a song that really jumped out to you?
well, I had a song that's personal, but it's all according to seasons and stuff. Back in my time, like we were talking earlier, is when Elvis came on the scene and people lost their minds, my age.
Yeah.
The teenage girls were like falling on the floor fainting, but the older generation was like, oh my gosh, he's evil, he's the devil.
Yeah.
We're all going to hell watching him. And
I want to break into that a little more. So could you do like a deeper description of like the girls in their teenage years and stuff like that, how they would act, I don't want to say worship, but kind of, I guess I could say how they basically worshipped Elvis
Yes.
versus how the people that were in their midlife years in their 30s and 40s that were parents and grandparents.
Well, yes, don't forget the older generation then was R&B, soul music, not even really soul music because there was still a lot of segregation at that point. So,
Right.
But it was R&B, it was like the waltz,
The
orchestras.
Oh, I got you.
That whole big band theory.
Yes.
And then Elvis comes on the scene and he's swiveling his hips and it's rock and roll and you got different performers and they're jumping up on top of pianos and, that type of stuff. And these girls, I was not a big fan, but I mean, I loved his music, but I wasn't like crazy.
Weren't your aunts like huge fans?
Absolutely.
They were obsessed,
to this
weren't
day.
they? Yeah.
To this day, they're still fans. They've been to Graceland, and all that kind of stuff. Oh, yes, But you had girls, that were just swooning. And I still see that today at concerts. I
Really?
still see that.
That is true. So like where I grew up, I was born in the 90s. So I grew up in like boy band territory. So like, like I grew up in boy band territory. Like I'm talking Backstreet Boys, NSYNC, 98 degrees. Yes, girl. In my first concert, because my mom was a big music person. Like my mom was big into like, 80s hair bands and stuff like that. And she was a big music person too. So she taking us to concerts as kids was huge to her. So we're in New York, so she brought us to the New York State Fair for my first concert, and I think I was 6.
Mm.
And it was a Britney Spears concert.
Oh my God.
I saw Hit Me Baby One More
What time?
time. Oh yeah. And then I think 98 Degrees was there too, but I think my grandmother brought us home before 98 Degrees came on because we were all tired. I think it was like me and Danielle, and I was 6 and she was 7. But yeah, that was my first concert. But yeah, the boy band territory that you get into, because when you were talking about swooning, the way chicks would lose their minds over these boy bands. Like I remember seeing it on MTV and being like, because I wasn't in that territory, and I was just like, why? You know what I mean?
Well, wasn't it the same? Isn't it the same with what's that young girl who does the concert?
Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift.
Oh yeah,
Isn't it the same thing?
yeah, it is.
I
Yeah,
mean,
there's
look at her
people
following.
There's people that get so excited listening to her that there's been reports of people saying, I literally blacked out in the beginning of the concert and I do not remember any of the concert.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
like, what?
It's been one place of people
But
saying
that's
that.
crazy. So you have,
Paid all that money. You're there
Yeah.
for 3 to 4 hours, and you don't remember parts
and
of
your
it.
brain just shuts down because it's like overload, and it just shuts down. Like, it's crazy because I mean, like, I can sit here and say, I remember everybody would be like, oh, this is my favorite one, and I have a crush on him and stuff like that, and like they make you choose, and I'm pretty sure I got put in that position too, and I picked one out. You know what? I'm not gonna lie. I was like, this one cute. You know what I mean? But yeah.
By the way, before I get some mean comments, the name of the song is "What's Up," and it's by 4 Non-Blondes, and it's really explains a quarter life crisis, but it's so catchy that I feel like I listen to all the time. It takes me right back to where I was feeling when you're like, because
Yes.
in it says what's going on, so
Yes.
that's why I refer to it as that. But because that's part of the hook of the song. But I digress because there's tons of other songs and
Yeah.
artists and things and moments.
Oh yeah.
But Marie, I obviously, even in Brazil, growing up in Brazil, I knew about Elvis. I knew about the Beatles. I knew about that. But like looking back now at like Elvis performing to see what the fuss was about. I know that there was a big fuss. I know that women like, whatever. But I'm looking at it and objectively, I'm like, well, what's the big deal? I heard something about him, like the way that he swung his hips. But even so, I don't know, by my standards or what became normal as it was coming up, it just didn't seem that controversial.
Well, don't forget at that time, you're coming out of the 50s, the modest era, the modest era. You know, girls' skirts were below their knees, everything they wore. So everything was modest. And, then you got this young, actually very good looking young man. And he's up there and he's swiveling his hips, and it's all people looked at it as from the hips down, female, male.
Mm-hmm.
Like it would be like okay, a good example is when it came in where guys were grabbing their junk all the time, and their pants were halfway down their butt. It was the same thing.
Yes.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
the same thought. Like, my thought is I want to run over and pull their pants up.
Yeah.
Like pull your pants up.
The
Nobody
baggy
wants
pants.
to see the crack of your butt. Okay, that's
Right.
not like pretty.
Yeah.
But it was on the same basis. So you're coming off from people really didn't even dance close. I mean,
Yeah.
they did in a waltz, you know what I'm saying? But and so then here comes the 60s and you're hanging on the guy's neck, and this one's like gyrating his lower body, and people are going, what's happening?
They were
to
like,
the
that's for the
world?"
bedroom for
Yeah.
married couples.
Yeah, they lost their minds. They lost their minds.
Was there anything controversial in the lyrics of the song? Was he
No.
suggestive sexually or anything?
No, he
It's just the way that he performed.
it was the way he performed.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, he if you listen to any of his songs, there's nothing, There's more in other singers than, my favorites, the Supremes.
Oh, yes.
I absolutely love them. I'm not a country fan, but I loved Kenny Rogers. Just loved Kenny. I mean, he could put his boots into my bed anytime. That's all I'm saying.
Girl.
Spicy.
Just one of those guys. When he sings "Lady," I want to oh my gosh, this man.
Yeah.
See, that's one of my favorite songs. That's just
Oh, I'll have to look that up.
Oh,
I know, me too.
such a great song. Oh my gosh. So that changed everything.
Yeah.
That changed everything on the music scene. Groups were coming up. And it's so funny how they have big concerts and things now. Like you had groups like I was in New York City when saw the Supremes, like it was in a bar.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these people, that's where they came up.
Mm-hmm.
And in, the small town bars. And,
Yeah,
and
that happened in my generation too. So a lot of people in the upstate New York area have heard of the Lost Horizon.
Mhm.
And the Lost Horizon is where a lot of bands, even I want to say in the 80s too, where a lot of bands really got their first start is they played at the Lost Horizon off at Erie Boulevard.
Mhm.
And I have definitely been to a few shows there.
Mhm.
So but absolutely, they start small and then they work their way up. But speaking of the Lost Horizon, wow, that just brought some images into my head. So I remember, I was what you would call an emo kid. So I didn't.
Were you?
I was, dude. I had a comb over and everything.
Oh my goodness.
What's that? An
Emo
Is that
kid.
a hairstyle?
No,
It's like a whole vibe.
it's
style.
like punk rock. Like
Oh.
it's like what the punk rock people like kind of evolved into, and they called it emo music because it's supposedly like really emotional music. I guess you could say,
emo, emotional.
but it's
Okay.
rock. Like
yeah, so lots
Hard
of black.
yeah.
Hard rock, yeah. My oldest son, like Purple Rain and that
Oh,
kind.
oh no,
No more?
no. Purple Rain. You're talking. Why am I drawing a blank right now?
Prince.
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 Yeah. No. I'm talking harder than Prince.
Oh, okay.
Prince is a musical genius, though.
Yes.
He's a musical genius.
My
but
oldest boy loved him.
But no, I went to the Lost Horizon and saw bands that were like they scream.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
and,
got
and
it.
it's
okay,
like
now.
yeah.
Yeah, I never got any of that. I didn't get it.
No.
Like, why is that music?
Huh? Because it's so here's the thing. People like music because they can connect. So in my eyes, music's always a story, right? Because music started as poetry where you're telling a story. And most music is a story. It's a statement of, either an emotion that you're feeling or how you feel about someone or how you feel about yourself or the situation that's going on, or you know what I mean? That's what most people do when they do music is they're speaking on a subject of something. So when you have a music that's, talks about stuff that's like a little bit on the darker side of your emotions and how you're
Yes, but
feeling.
how can you understand anything when they're screaming at you? Like, where's the words?
So,
Oh,
I see what you're
see it.
saying.
Yeah.
Like, they're
They're not doing it the whole time.
Yeah, but I think, what do you think? Like Linkin Park?
I loved Linkin Park.
I know, but he screams it.
He does sometimes, but he doesn't through his whole song. And you know what? Earlier when you were like, what's that one band that comes up to you? Linkin Park was the first one that came to my mind. I had their album when I was in 5th grade. They had an album that they came out with called Hybrid Theory. And I could literally sing you the words to every single one of those
Yeah, but
songs.
could you scream it?
I could not scream it. I can't sing. Like when I sing, it sounds like somebody's like murdering.
Neither can they. They're not
It sounds like
singing,
somebody's
they're
murdering
screaming.
dolphins if I try to sing. Okay, like it's horrible. Like you don't ever want to. Like I don't want. Like the Lord's like, this is just for me and you, Jess. Like, I think it's a beautiful noise. I'm like, thank you that you love me unconditionally, Jesus. Like, you know what I mean? But yeah, no. I literally. It's funny because. I could, honest to God, I could recite to you almost all the words to all their songs. That was my favorite band, but I connected with the music because, and I'm just going to say what it is I always struggled with depression as a kid, just depression, anxiety from a very young
depressing.
age. Yeah. The music.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's so I connected with it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because at the time when you're a young kid that's, 12 years old, and you have these emotions, but you can't talk to anybody about it. And then you hear this song and you're like, that's exactly how I feel. Like it's put into words, you know what I mean? And I just connected with it and I became a huge fan of theirs. And then here's the crazy story to that. The lead singer, Chester Binghamton, a few years ago actually committed suicide.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
No surprise.
But the music, they have billions of people that follow, like a billion people probably. There's like 7 billion people in the world or something like that. They probably have like a billion people that could say, yeah, I know who Linkin Park is.
I have no idea.
You know what I mean?
You probably don't know that you know him. I'm sure you probably heard a song here and there.
Yeah.
But yeah. But I correct me if I'm wrong. My impression is that that at least when you were coming up, I'm thinking about like the Beatles, even that their songs had like messages and meanings.
Yes,
And
they did.
nowadays there's a lot of songs that are just, the songs are real catchy and well produced, but the lyrics either mean nothing or it's just garbage that you like end up memorizing. My bitches and hoes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm thinking Cardi B. Some of the lyrics there are real dirty.
They are.
But but then you look back to the Beatles, and I feel like they were trying to make a statement, and they were,
yes.
and the lyrics, and it's not just their looks. So their looks were probably controversial at the time because I'm seeing a lot of history of clean cut men, and this is the way you look, and then you got these guys with like long hair and all that. But I'm thinking of what I'm remembering from their songs, and they all are like pretty meaningful. But,
yes.
But they were saying something about what was going on, or the culture, or they had something to say, even if you didn't agree with them.
Yeah, I was never I'm not a big, I guess, I don't know. I was never a big fan of theirs either. I like their songs. And I agree with you. Everything they say, if you really, really listen to them, there's a message.
Mm-hmm.
There's a message. And again, like you say, it's where are you with what songs impress you at the time, Today, I love Laura Dangle. I can never get her last name right. When she sings Oceans, oh my gosh, I can't even, But it's I think music plays a big part, like you said, Jess, because it's where are you?
Yeah.
How does that affect my emotions?
Yeah. 100%.
And whether you're 12 or you're 60, it's where does that music lead you? Do I find comfort? Do I find somebody knows what I know, feels what I feel? I'm not alone type thing.
Right.
So, yeah. I just think if you really look at it, though, yes, the music changes, but it's still the same.
Yeah.
It's for whatever generation, whatever appeals to them, but it's still saying the same thing, and it's affecting you emotionally and where you are. So regardless of what music it is.
Yeah.
But music is really powerful, too. I mean, you imagine, like, you get a song stuck in your head, but
Mm-hmm.
can't remember scripture for nothing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, words are power.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
So we have to, like, pay attention, too, to
Yeah.
what we're seeing. The thing I want to, I don't know, this is, like, maybe a quick, like, a too far of an aside, but I was thinking about some of the 90s. I'm thinking Britney Spears, who's still around, but struggling today, and
Mm-hmm.
the boy bands that you mentioned. And I don't know what happened to the music industry or if it always was that way, but these people that came up more during our formative years, Jess, they got shafted a lot, like financially.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they did.
TLC, who I grew up with, they made like $30,000 a year. I mean, even if I know it's like we're talking
Isn't
about it
that
now because
crazy?
it's the same as inflation, but even back then at that time wasn't a lot. But that there was money being made. It's just the way that the way they came up with the deals.
Yeah.
Other people made money and they didn't. Like how they're struggling financially, yet their records are selling everywhere.
Because they basically got played. You know what I mean? They wrote their name on the dotted line without looking into the agreement that they did. So they were making millions of dollars, but the millions of dollars were going to the record companies and the labels and stuff like that.
That was the problem. When music came on the scene and started to get as popular as it did, people capitalized on it. But your person that was coming up and singing, all they wanted to do was people to hear their music. They didn't, but you did have some smart ones, or people with him that was smart. Look at Elvis Presley. Look, he was, I don't know if it was him who was as smart as his mother. She made sure, that boy made money. It's just as simple as that. But the majority of them, as they come up, like you said, I think even today, they're smarter, so they know.
Yeah. Oh, there's artists. There's an artist that I just found out about, and he's a rap artist, but he's a gospel rap artist, and I just discovered him like a month ago, and his music is so good, and he does all of his stuff himself. He's not with a record company. He's not with a label. He produces and creates all of his music himself. And I think he manages himself. His name's Forrest Frank.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. The dude can do some tunes, man. Like, and he produces everything. And I'll just be in my car and my Apple Watch will be like, the noise is above decibels that are safe for you to be listening to. And I'm like, I don't care, man. Turn it up more. Like, but that is where the direction that a lot of people are going now. And there's another really famous artist that came out.
Are you thinking Tom McDonald? Because he's the independent rap artist.
No, there's a guy, but he's more on the scene as like pop, but he was like himself. And I can't think of what the heck his name is. And I can see his face. I can see his face and I can see his haircut. And he came out when I was in high school and he was his own producer, his own label. He was private, like, I'm running everything here, me, myself, and I, you know what I mean? And all the money went straight to him instead of having it. So it's one of those things where here's the thing. There's some people that have talent, but I don't say this to be mean, but they don't have the high level of thinking to be able to manage all that at once. Like, they have the ability to execute the talent portion of it, but when it comes to all that extra stuff with managing and scheduling and this and that, there's some people that don't have the capacity for that.
Well, I think as technology came in, that's where the smarts came in for a lot of the artists. I mean, a lot of these artists they came up through YouTube, and again, the majority of these people that are artists, they just want their music heard.
Yeah. Well,
They're
Justin
not
Bieber
really-
came up through YouTube. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know that, but I mean, so somewhere along the line, yes, they came up. Well, look with his mother, same thing. She looked out for her son. There was like,
And she was a single mom, so
she was like, oh no, you did not. So I think when they have someone alongside of them like that.
and I think that's all the difference. I think that it makes it's someone alongside them that's watching out for them. I think it's kind of unrealistic, someone with that talent who's really young and doesn't have enough life experience to be expected at the onset of just trying to make it, and just their goal is to be an artist, to then also be savvy in all these different ways, when there's a whole, it's not just them, but there's like a whole tank of the industry that is got the lawyers, has got the system all figured out with a contract, and all you have to do is sign, like, how they can possibly know all the ways around it. So it's crucial to have it alongside. Now, Taylor Swift, she came up young too, but her dad is freaking smart. Was in the finance field. Yeah. And so he watched out for her with her contracts, and that's why she's retained most of her money and been savvy, because she started as a teenager. There's no way as a teenager you can expect for her to know all this stuff. There was someone else, Justin Timberlake also had some people alongside of him, and so he came in through the boy band Backstreet Boys. But he's the only one.
NSYNC.
NSYNC. I'm sorry, NSYNC.
That was the one I had a crush on.
Yes, of course. But you notice that, and they were all great singers. That's why they were in that band. But he's the only one that's maintained that commercial success and been most successful, because he personally had someone look out for him and be able to look at these contracts and make sense of the legalese.
Well, look at the opposite side of that coin. So he was with Britney Spears, right? Look at where she is in her life now.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
But
because
again,
she got exploited versus...
Yes and no, but drugs were definitely involved there.
Well, if I haven't really looked hardcore into it, but from what I saw, she's been being force-fed antidepressants and anti all these things her entire life and basically get put on stage and stuff like that. So if you look into the lawsuit, that was part of the reason why she was pushing to have her father removed, because she didn't want to perform like that anymore. Right. But she was basically like a performing monkey for most of her life.
Well, and that's right to the point of what we're saying. Right. Either you have someone watching out for you,
or you have someone exploiting you.
And that's the reality of life in anything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Anything. So, but I think as far as the artist goes, with the technology that's out there today, they have evolved. Most of them now, even if they're so tech savvy, they know enough to protect themselves. I don't think the record companies get away with it as much as they did years ago.
And maybe that's a millennial thing, because that's why I think of Tom McDonald, because he's the one that did the guys remember the song Facts, that rap song with Ben Shapiro? He's a rap singer, but he sings like his lyrics actually have meaning. There's nothing there like it's very like patriotic. It's got something to say about the culture. There's no like my bitches and hoes and different things like that. He can't get a record deal through mainstream because he can't be controlled and he wants to sing what he wants to sing. So he's decided, forget this, I'll just do it myself. And he's been making it. So he's like actually the #1 independent artist. He has a great success outside of the mainstream, and he's found a way to make it. And I think that's the time about where today, not just being a millennial, but like the time that we're in, that there are ways that are coming up to circumvent these giants of industry in this way, that the thing that has always been done.
They have more tools to protect themselves.
Precisely. Just like, for example, before you couldn't get a movie made if you weren't going to work through a major studio like Paramount and all of that. Now people are like, they're just fed up and they're finding different ways. So they're like, I'll finance it myself. I'll get this myself. And then the independent industry has come up.
Yeah, that has a lot of competition.
Well, I think any industry, and especially in artistry, I think it's very emotional for the artist because they just want their music to be heard.
Yeah.
If it's a true artist, they're singing from their heart, from their own emotions, from their own life. And, they just want to be heard. They just want to be heard. And it's like everything in life. So you come across them and like, I see dollar signs. This kid is good.
Yeah. And then they get exploited. And that still happens today. Because it's like you said, if you don't have somebody to protect you. And I mean, especially like in, all the different types of industries, like in the rap industry, for example, there's a lot of up and coming artists that, they don't really have a lot of people to protect them. But it's one of those things where if you're lucky to have somebody to take you under your wing to protect you, that's where it's at. You know what I mean? Instead of trying to do it yourself, because if you don't know the industry, but you got talent, they'll eat you alive.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's just about in everything. But music has evolved with the technology. Music has evolved. I mean, you can sound like you have a whole band behind you and there's nobody but you. So, but at the end of the day, if you're an artist, you're an artist. It's just, but I would love to hear from our listeners. I would love them to send in, like, what song means something to you and why? What's the meaning? Why did you love that song when you loved it? Like you said, what you were going through when you went through the depression, and so you love this band because you could relate to it. So what is your song? Isn't it funny how people always pick a song at their wedding?
Yeah, yeah.
I never got that.
I didn't either, because I got forced to pick a song, and it's not like, I mean, like we picked one. It's a beautiful song. It's the song by John Legend. Everybody pretty much knows that song.
Yes.
But it's not like when it comes on the radio and Keith and I don't look at each other like, "Aww," you know what I mean? It's not, it does absolutely nothing for me. We just picked it because we were told we had to pick a song for that whole shebang that they have you do for things for your wedding.
Yeah, and that's I guess it means something. Everybody
to each their own. And you know what? There are some people that have that reaction. That are like, they hear that song and they're like, oh, that had so much meaning to me and my significant other after what we went through. And Keith and I just didn't have that. We just had to pick a song for the DJ. You know what I mean? Like, they're like, okay, you're going to do your first dance and you got to pick a song for your first dance. And I was like, like on Google, you know what I mean? Just Googled a song and picked it. So, but yeah, just like Marie said to our listener, please give us some feedback. We'd love to hear from you guys. And we'd love to maybe down the road cover those questions as well. If we get something where the three of us are like, wow, that is awesome. That's a great topic. we're three people, but, we don't know it all. We're absolutely open to anything that you guys have for suggestions. So please feel free to send them into our email, and Jules is going to give you that information.
Yes, it's podcastthreegenerations@gmail.com. podcastthreegenerations@gmail.com. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, to Three Generations. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. And don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment. Send us an email if you enjoyed today's episode. And again, we just would love to have your feedback. And join us next time for some more discussions and insights from Jess, Julia, and Marie. Thanks for listening to Three Generations. See you next time.
Bye, guys.